to the next topic, which is should I say it the way I've written it out here? Like Gotti I hate it. I hate saying that because I hate when Jameson says it, but it's game of the year. It's game of the year talk. We're in November, as you can clearly see at this calendar. It is that time of the year to find out what are games that we are really looking forward to. And I just realized that I wrote those in notes on my phone. So,
well, I remember.
You remember yours?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I do remember my 3. So the way that this is going to go is we're not going to tell you game of the year just yet because we're not all here. So in the next episode, not the next part, but the next episode 12, we'll be talking about who won game of the year. Plus, we might go over the video game awards. I'm not sure.
And then we'll have a vote, right?
Yes, yeah. We'll vote, all 3 of us. Plus, I'll also talk with Ashton and Christian to get their votes in as well. So I'm going to write down ours, and then when I go talk with David, which will be later.
David.
Yes. We will get that going. So the way I'm going to do this is we're not going to say what order these are in. I'm just writing 1, 2, 3 for the games that we are going to say. These are not in the specifications of these are what we think are game of the year, but these are on now the ballot, if that makes sense.
These are like nominees.
Exactly. And we're only doing one category, game of the year. That's what we're doing. And then we might do the video game awards thing as well. So you get one, I'll give one, you give one, I'll give one, you give one, I'll give one.
Okay.
All right. So what is your first game you would like to put on the ballot of this year? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can vote as well. Put in the comment section below of this part what games you want on there, and maybe, just maybe, we might do a fan one too.
That would be cool.
Have to be enough. It has to be enough though. So, what's your first game you'd like to nominate?
I will nominate Persona 5.
Okay, Persona 5.
Should we explain a little bit of reasons as to why we?
Yeah. Give a 2-minute reason of why it should be.
Okay. So I already had previously talked about that. I said Atlas is probably my favorite company. Well, then it should be no surprise that I really like Persona 5. And I like the Persona series as a whole. But Persona 5 is... in all honesty, I prefer Persona 4 more than or Golden, at least.
Yeah.
More than Persona 5. As a preference. But mechanically, the Persona 5 blows Persona 4 out of the water. Persona 5 is a complete, hot pot mix culmination of everything Atlas has ever done put into one game. Because if you followed Atlas and you've played a lot of their games, you'll notice all the little additions they've added from different iterations of Persona and the SMT games that they've just put into Persona 5. For example, there's a new psychic element. I don't know if you got to that part, Ryan, since you were still at the beginning.
I played to the first castle.
So they have the regular fire, wind, electric, blah blah blah. But in this game they have psychic and nuclear elements. So there's 2 more elements, and those were originally added in. One of them was in an SMT game that never came to the West. So there was no way of you possibly knowing that. And the other was from a lot earlier SMT game. I don't think I played it. Maybe both of them were from the same SMT game that never came to the West. But they added those games. What they did is they added what in SMT would normally be called demon negotiations to recruit demons. It's a hold up now in Persona 5, where you hold them up and then you interrogate them for money, for them to join your party, for items, and other miscellaneous things. And then, of course, all-out attacks are still in the game. Social links every single social link is worth it in this game because they all give you rewards. None of them are worthless. I have to say that the supporting cast is really great in this game, as well as the main cast, of course. The voice acting is top-notch. Just the whole game is very, really... It shows that Atlas put a lot of time and effort into this game. And so I really commend them for it.
Okay. Well, mine is it's got to be one game I'm nominating is Wolfenstein 2. Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. Though it is freaking hard, and as you can clearly see in my Let's Play in my PT Live uh, playthrough of this, there are times where it is so freaking hard. But, and I will tell you, there are times where also the rewards are a little bit less than what I would want because I'm trying to get there. But I have to say, of the games that I've completed, because the way that we have to put these on here is that we have to beat the game. Like we have to play it and beat the game. That's the classification of putting these games in. But I think they added on a story element. The story is really, really cool, of a more gritty, violent version of kind of Man in the High Castle, because which is the Amazon show about an alternate universe of if the Nazis had won World War II, how would that pan out? And the way that they had it was that the West Coast was the Japanese Pacific area, and the Nazis took literally all of the East Coast and all of the Midwest, and then there's this like wall that borders between, or this like space that isn't owned by either one. Man, I was waiting for that burp. But this version of this kind of alternate universe of if the Nazis has won, I think Machine Games has done an amazing job trying to put Wolfenstein back together of where it was. Like, why I don't know, it's kind of the same thing with like how Crystal Dynamics has done with Tomb Raider. Is there was a franchise before, and then they kind of just went, you know what, screw it, wipe it all off the table, we're going to start from scratch, here's this new thing. BJ and like we it's interesting how the first game worked with the New Order. Was it kind of implements that we already know who BJ Blazkowicz is, who's the main character, he's what you play, and that he's already experienced some of these things that has happened in the past, but they're not like saying he did all of that. So in the sense that like kind of like Star Wars, where Ahsoka was a part of the Clone Wars series,
Yeah.
but when Disney bought him, they were like, okay, well now Ahsoka doesn't necessarily exist. So they brought her in Rebels, and they're like, okay, now Ahsoka exists. We're not going to say exactly what happened, but we're clarifying that we are hinting at Clone Wars did still happen. So that's what they're saying. So it's kind of like that. So we're in Wolfenstein, the new Colossus kicks off. It's definitely, there are moments where like in the story, I even was so shocked. Like I was like, in the sense of like, what? Like how did what? Like when a game blows your mind like that, it's a really great story. The gameplay is freaking hard, but I can't knock it for that. The game goes back to its roots. Its deep, deep roots of finding health and balancing that with your armor. And if you don't do that correctly, you will die, and you have to strategically kill things because it's not a first-person shooter as much as a lot of people, when they look at it, they say it is. I don't classify it as a first-person shooter because it does add a little bit more implements of different things to figure out how to do things differently. So I think I went a little bit over my time, but Wolfenstein 2, I'm nominating that. Quinn, what is your next nomination?
All right, the second game that I have for my nomination is Fate Extella: The Umbral Star, and it's part of the Fate Extra series. I haven't played the other games, so if you haven't played the other games, you can figure out the story. It's a little confusing though because a lot of the relationships with the characters are further along.
Okay.
So it'll be a little awkward because as someone that's just playing it, you're going to be like, wow, they're talking like of course they're talking like they knew each other because they've known each other for 2 prior games.
Yeah.
But as far as this game goes, the whole story, you can get the gist of this story from itself. Like you don't rely on the prior knowledge to know like he lost his arm from like getting chopped off by like Captain Michael Scorsese or something, and like I don't know, somewhere,
Yeah.
somewhere land. And I think the game is very flawed. It's a sort of it's like a Muso game, which is hack and slash,
Like God of War.
Dynasty Warriors
Oh,
sort of
Dynasty
game,
Warriors.
um, where you control a really strong unit and you plow through enemy units and you gotta control territory and you fight boss characters and blah blah blah. And it's entertaining. It's fun. I mostly played it because I was interested in the story for the Fate series because I got into it recently. And I think the story it's all right. I think I would give it a 7, and the only reason I give it a 7 is because it doesn't get really good until the later end arcs of the story. Because you play through 3 characters and they're 3 different perspectives. And the first perspective is just the ground bare minimum of like, oh, this is what's going on. And then you restart the story essentially at the beginning and you play through the other character's perspective. And the second character's perspective, I think, is a little bit more boring because that's in line with their characters. They don't really want to do anything or, like, I guess, fight. They just kind of want to live. And then the third character is the most interesting story and definitely worth, in my opinion, having played the game through to get to that one. And that game actually made me cry. I stayed up till like 4 a.m. to beat it one night. And I was like tearing up. I was like, man, this is
good.
sad.
That's
this is
good.
sad. Yeah. So that's my second.
Okay. So my second nomination is Call of Duty World War II. And now I know I just like totally crapped on Activision this last part, but I do think Call of Duty World War II is very, very special with the fact that Sledgehammer has come in, made this game, and has almost knocked it out of the park. Now, at this current moment, I have not finished it, so it might jump up on my scale right now. Like, of the games that I've chosen, there are, like, I would put some over others. So right now, Call of Duty could jump, but because it's on a very, very good track. It does so many different things that I have never seen Call of Duty. It's an on-rail shooter that jumps right into a stealth game, that jumps right into a first-person shooter, that jumps right into this amazing, like, overarch, like, Band of Brothers type of story. And I'm like, this is really, really cool that, like, Sledgehammer came in, they tested the waters, they're doing something, because I think this is their first game that they've done by themselves. They do advertise that Raven is a part of it, but I'm like, I don't really know if Raven is a software company. Like they make games. I think they just focus on the cutscene kind of stuff. I'm not sure. They might be like Blur. I'm not entirely sure yet. But their logo is shown at the beginning of the game. Anyway, zombies I haven't dove into too much, but I've played a map of that. They really added a lot. They have jump scares now.
Oh, they have jump scares?
Yeah, so like you'll be running and all of a sudden one will like jump right in front of you and you're like, ah! So like there's these, because they now crawl from the ground. They don't have to go through windows anymore. But it's like those cool things of they're adding these little things. Now, I think there's actually even story mode to it, to zombies.
Oh, wow.
That like David Tennant is a part of.
That sounds cool.
And so like I haven't played that part yet, but like I played just the basic map one. And it's just Call of Duty has come back to being a really cool first-person shooter. The online was a little bit buggy in the launch. But it's gotten better, and I haven't had a problem with it since then. The fact that you can earn everything, every single thing, you can earn it. You don't have to pay for things. Some things are a little bit more expensive, but they're not too far out of the reach like how some other companies type to put their stuff at. But there are things where you, in order to unlock it, you have to buy these other things. So like you have to buy this emote, buy this like cover thing. I can't remember what they call it. But by X, Y, and Z to unlock, A. Which A you want because it's like a gold skin to a gun. And so it's like not altering things of like you're never gonna get that thing. You can get it eventually. Like you can do it. Nothing's more than like 2,000 something, and you get paid every day. Like you get a in-sign bonus, and you get a because now there's this little open world hub
Oh,
that
really?
you like spawn in, and then you can like run around and do some activities. There's like a one-on-one death pit. There's like a testing range. There's like this, there's like missions that you can go and do. Like they'll give you. It's kind of like Destiny, obviously with the Blizzard Activision thing. But it's a very small, downscaled version of that. Of like you have missions you can go do. They'll say like get 10 headshots with a pistol, and like you go sign up for that thing. Like they'll give you like 6 things to do, but you can only pick 3 at a time. And so like when you do one, you get paid for it, and then you go back and then you get another one and you go and do that thing. There are also contracts and things like that, and that's just multiplayer. Story's great. I don't like the jumping around thing because I do feel like there's some times where I'm like I missed something. Like I was watching an episode of Band of Brothers, and then like I just decided, you know what, I'm not gonna watch episode 2. I'm just gonna watch episode 3. And then you're like, what happened? Because like they'll be talking about like, damn, I feel like crap because I talked to so and so, and you're like, but when was that? Like that was
When did that
weeks.
happen?
Yeah, that was like a week ago, and I'm like, we're jumped ahead like a month after the first mission. So, by the way, the D-Day mission in Call of Duty is insane. Like I was like you go back and watch the first episode of the PT Live video, but like there's so much stuff going on. The last time I was that excited to do a D-Day mission was Medal of Honor Frontline. Like I really love that game. And so it's like the fact that Call of Duty has come out swinging hard. They're swinging for the fences, and I think they're almost gotten there. So like we'll see if someone's going to rob them of their home run, or if they might have gone yard this time. So your third recommendation.
So my third recommendation is a little out of the box, a little out of the ordinary.
Out of the box.
Uh,
There's some 90s reference right there.
my Fire Emblem, or my
Fire Emblem Heroes.
my final nomination is Fire Emblem Heroes. Which for you guys who don't know is an app game that you can get on iPhone or Android, any smart device.
Now you're throwing Fire Emblem Heroes, an app game, on the ballot.
On the ballot.
And you were fighting on this one before. So
yes. Well, because I feel bad that I'm nominating because it's an app game. But at the same time, I didn't like Echoes. I'm going to be... if you guys haven't watched any of the previous episodes, I do not like Echoes. And I think, a lot of people argue what's more important in a game, story or gameplay. What the basis when the games were originally created, they didn't have story. It was all about the gameplay.
Pong is a death match of like major stuff. Jameson's here.
You had to like read the manual to get the story, the gripping story of Pong, how you get inside this arena and fight another person to death. But Fire Emblem Heroes, in my opinion, has a lot better gameplay. I like the gameplay in Echoes, but it has a lot better gameplay than Echoes because it is something that you have arena mode, you have story mode. The story in Fire Emblem Heroes is not good. It's an app game, so I don't expect it to be good. You have all these different features. You have skill inheritance. It's like it's almost a full-fledged Fire Emblem game that they can continuously add content to. For free, essentially, unless if you choose to pay.
Yeah.
And so
as one mobile app does.
Yes, and I think that's actually very impressive. I mean, give it to Nintendo, of course, to do this because I think it's prior to this game, I wasn't interested in app games whatsoever. And when I played this game, I was actually very surprised at the fact that I could be playing a Fire Emblem game on the go.
Yeah. Well, my third one,
Oh, jeez, bless you.
I
You
know,
all right?
that's weird. Anyway, so like we were talking about, game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Game of the year games. So yeah, I did mine. I have one more left.
Okay.
Should I let you give
go
your
ahead.
two,
No,
and then I'll
just
give
do the rest of yours.
Okay, so my last one is Friday the 13th. And the reason why Friday the 13th, it's not a remake. It's an original IP.
Uh-huh.
And B, it is fun.
Like, it is a generally fun game. It was just when it launched, it was not. It was so buggy
Mm-hmm.
that it hurt itself.
Right.
But still, there were so many fans that were like, a game is great when the fans are using third-party things to team up with other people that they've never met. Like, I remember I've never used the Xbox search for party
Uh-huh.
until Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And to me, that to me speaks that the game is fun to play because it's a game that, I was searching to try and find and play with other people, and I met like some people I added this year because I was playing Friday the 13th
So
this year.
it's kind of like the Xbox's built-in Destiny companion app to find
Sort
to find
of,
parties.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
PlayStation players got around the whole thing, but
Well, like
but yeah, it was
yeah.
Microsoft's like search for party thing
Mhm.
like was really came in really good help there. And also like I know there was like what's that other one? The one that's kind of like Friday the 13th.
Death by
Death by Daylight?
No,
that's the zombie one.
Yeah, it's a zombie one.
Because
Because the one Friday the 13th one with Jason. And
Yes.
You're thinking of the one where you're playing as
like all those created ones.
Yeah, it's
Oh boy.
I can't remember.
It's on the
Um,
tip of my tongue. I
yeah,
can picture the
I'm-
box art. I can see it. Okay, so while you're looking that up,
Yeah,
I'll explain more of why Friday the 13th. And just to have like this whole hide and seek method of trying to find a, you're Jason and you're trying to search this thing. And what's cool is like they added these, with the other game, there's kind of just like one way of winning as far as I was able to play. Last time I played it was still in beta and it was at PAX. But with Friday the 13th, there's multiple ways of winning. And sometimes when you get in the car,
Dead by Daylight.
it is Dead by Daylight.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
I think. Is it?
No, that might be it.
No.
No, what's the zombie one? Your phone's a little too close to the.
Oh, sorry. Cause I'm on a I'm looking. No, like that's.
Yeah, click on it and just watch one of the videos.
Oh.
So
Yeah, that's
that is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
Yep.
Dead by
Because
Daylight. Dead by
there's
Daylight.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Dead by Daylight, again, I don't know if they've changed it, but in Friday the 13th, there are multiple ways of winning. So there's you can do the heroic thing, and everyone teams up to kill Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, somebody has to die because somebody has to come back as Tommy Jarvis.
Get
But-
that shotgun.
Yeah, but actually 2 people have to die, and then it's randomly selected,
Mhm.
random, as in the second person gets to come back as Tommy Jarvis. And then you can kill Jason. Second thing is you guys can escape. So subpar of the second thing you can do, you can call the cops.
Mm-hmm.
You can get on a boat and get out of there, or you can get in a car, and some cars have more passenger seats than
Mhm.
others. So you might we might escape, but like Ashton and Christian
Yeah.
had to sit there and
Yeah,
figure their
'cause-
own thing out.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Let's Plays of this because one of the YouTubers I like to watch does a lot of it. And I know there's the 2-seater, there's the 4-seater,
Mhm.
and then there's the boat. And yeah, so I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
And there's all these little increments of how to do things. And in Dead by Daylight, there are also those things of like
Mhm.
you need to have gas to do this thing, but it's cool because like gas can do multiple things. So
Mhm.
it can help you out in the boat, or it can help you out with the car,
Mhm.
or or the car has a specific thing of where you need to find keys, or the boat needs a propeller. So there's all these cool little things that they added in Friday the 13th that are really awesome. It's interesting to see that the game has come a long way. I think there's now a single player story now. So there's that. I haven't played that yet. But as part of the review process, I guess that didn't launch with the game, so technically still beat it anyway. Because I have one as Jason and one as a camp counselor, so I will say I beat the game. But yeah, I think it's a gem, and I do think it's really fun to play with friends. I wish we could record stuff more for like the console and stuff, but for some reason the Elgato thing doesn't really work, and I've tried. Maybe with the new Xbox I can probably figure something out. But yeah, so the third and final ballot list from me is Friday the 13th.
Okay. Solid.
Yeah. So what are your 3, David?
So I'm gonna start off and say I only have 2.
Okay.
And that's primarily because I haven't played a lot of new games this year, or at least or have beaten new games this year, because I haven't beaten Persona 5, and I haven't beaten Breath of the Wild. I've played them. I've got about 30 hours in both of them, but I haven't beaten them.
Okay.
And then I haven't played any of the newer games like Assassin's Creed, the new Call of Duty, Shadow of War. I haven't played those because I am on the boat of I am what was the term?
Well, there's voting with your wallet, but there's also like boycotting of it and like
I'm voting with my wallet, boycotting with my wallet. I am choosing to not buy them until this whole loot box craze is basically done. I'm tired of it and I'm over it. So for the sake of the gaming community for games, I have not been purchasing them.
I mean, that's fair.
Intentionally.
Yeah. You could buy them at GameStop and not give the money back to the developer.
I mean, that's true.
So you could kind of sneak under the radar.
But I'm also a big proponent of getting game developers their money. Otherwise, the developers go away.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I only have 2 games that have come out this year that I have beaten.
Okay.
And I actually really enjoy both of them, and I do think both of them do deserve to be on this list. And we'll start off with the first one, which is Horizon Zero Dawn. I have not beaten the DLC. I have it. I've paid for it. I've downloaded it. I just haven't had the time to play it. But the base game itself is fantastic. It's one of the most refreshing takes on the open world genre that I have played in a long time.
Really?
It doesn't feel, grindy. Because some will be like, oh, well, there's lots of content to do, but most of the content is just grind fest.
Yeah.
Or searching. You're just searching for random stuff.
Yeah, I think like the best game that like we both like, I'm using that we both like, that we've kind of agreed that didn't have this grindy feel that felt so fluid was Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
So like, is this kind of that vibe that you kind of had with Horizon? Where it's
it's like a true open world.
Yeah.
Whereas Tomb Raider's a little linear.
Yeah.
But
it's sort of.
It does. Yeah. Yes. You can go back to different areas. But with Horizon, yes, they do have their collectibles, but it shows you on the map where they are, the ones that matter. It does show you on the map where they are, and there's not an absurd amount of them. Like it's totally and they're along. Like they're along the progression of the story. They're not just like, oh, this is way off in the top left corner of the map.
Have fun walking there.
Yeah, you have no other reason to be up here, but we're just gonna tuck this here just to give you a reason to go to this corner. They're not like that. They're all within side mission or main story objectives, and it was really nice. The game is visually beautiful as well. The visuals are great. The environment's great. The enemy AI I think was fantastic for their beast. They each have type of enemy. Like you literally learn how those specific ones react, and they react with each other too. Like you'll see some, like you'll walk up and you see like the T-Rex kind of robot fighting other robots and things like that. And it's like, well, how do I deal with this situation? Because if I attack, the mob that the T-Rex is fighting, I'm gonna probably aggro it as well. Then there's multiple ways to take on enemies. Like when you put up your what did they call it? The little device. There was a term that they used.
Oh yeah,
for it.
her little like earring thing that she has. Yeah,
that was the one thing I never got. Is that she gave it a name, like she made a name for it herself, but then when she meets somebody else who has one, they called it the same thing, and that was the one thing in the story that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, that is a little
like,
interesting.
I was like, what are the odds of them calling this little thing the same thing? And I can't remember what it was called. They'll deal with that later. But when you prop that up and you're looking at an enemy, it shows you its weak points. Shows you its weak points. It shows you what it's weak to in terms of environmental.
So a little
or
Shadow of
elemental.
War or
Yeah.
Shadow of Mordor going
Yeah,
on there.
and it yeah. So it's like, oh, if you take away like the plating around its belly and then you shoot its belly, that's like where its fuel is, and if you shoot that, it will burst and light on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and it deals like a huge chunk of damage to them. Or you can just shoot 100 arrows at it if you want and run and have it chase you. Like, it's very strategic. It can be very strategic, especially when you're fighting the big birds that have like the rockets.
Yeah.
Those fights were pretty challenging until you get used to it. But the story I thought was unique. God, it was a little predictable, but I felt like it was unique enough. I thought with how the world went. I can't recall any game whose story is kind of similar to this in its premise. But it near the end it did get a little predictable.
Okay.
The cutscenes animations were great. Facial animations were great. Were spot on with the words. Some of them I thought were maybe a little overexpressive, but I thought the game, even the NPCs, looked just as detailed as Aloy.
Interesting.
Because you know how normally when you look at an NPC, you can always tell.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you're the guy.
Resolutions are a little low.
Like,
yeah.
name the protagonist, and if you were like in a crowd, you'd be like, oh, obviously I'm the one, where everyone else is a pleb.
Yeah, yeah.
So you would nominate that. So what about your number 2?
My number 2 is a game that I just recently got a coworker hooked on, and she's absolutely loving it, and that is Nier Automata.
I had a feeling that this would be your number 2. Like,
yeah.
Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, the games that we've said in this part are not specifically in order of what we think is the best.
Right.
These are just what we're putting on the ballot, and then all 5 of us are going to vote. That's Christian, Ashton, you, Quinn, and myself will vote based on the games that we have announced today. So, I know we're leaving out Ashton and Christian, but it's just like they're not going to be on the show, so it's like a little bit different.
What are we going to do if there isn't a clear winner?
If there isn't a clear winner, we'll figure it out.
All right.
We'll have arguments. That's how that's how Game of the Year things are decided. But anyway.
Yeah, Nier Automata. I mean, I praised this to high heavens in a previous video.
Yeah.
So just to sort of summarize about it, fluid, amazing combat, very unique story, and in how it's presented. I've never ever played a game that was presented like this, ever.
Yeah, that New Game Plus thing that you were telling me about in the last, I think it was the last episode.
I think it was the last episode. Yeah.
It's like I would like it is now on my list of I will probably when I get my PS4.
It's on PC too.
Yeah, I did find that out.
Yeah.
So I might just pick it up for PC.
I've heard that they didn't port it too well, but you can get a mod that will fix it.
I might have to just do that. It might be cheaper just to go that route.
Probably. I don't think it's a game that's worth this $60 price tag. I got mine under 40 on sale on PlayStation Plus. If you can,
Black Friday's
if you can find it under 40, grab it. Totally. I think for me it is a solid $40 game. I think you're getting your $40 out of it.
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed that game. I loved the story. I loved all the characters, and there's like the story and the character progression as they are as characters. Like their ideals change, and they really do grow, and it's amazing to see it, especially with one character in particular. And I don't want to spoil it. I just don't. One character it's great.
That's good.
But yeah. The music, yeah, yeah. The music and the soundtrack, so good. Spot on for how it's trying to make you feel when you're doing the story, because there is a lot of emotion in this game. Because a lot of the stuff that you find out through the story is just like really, there's a lot of weight to it. I wasn't expecting to have this sort of big, full philosophical moral dilemma in my head playing this game.
It's interesting. Like it's always good to where a game can like drag you in to a story
Mm-hmm.
so well. I mean, that's kind of how it was with like BioShock. Was
Mhm.
like there's this like world they just sucked you in. You're like,
Yeah.
how I'm
Mhm.
loving every moment I'm in this world right now.
Yeah. Yeah. The only negatives that I really have to say about that game is
Welcome back.
sorry, I had a phone call. My girlfriend got off work, and
Yeah.
so if it's the big sale going on where she works right now, and the parking lot has no lighting. So whenever she's off and it's dark, she always calls me.
Speaking of no
So-
lighting, you guys have terrible lighting to indicate where you guys live. Like
Oh, yeah, I know.
I like when I texted you,
Hmm?
I drove into another thing because I was like, ah, crap. But as soon as I was like turning, I was like, this is not right because I saw it. I was like,
Well, was our sign not lit up?
it is, but it's like
It's
so
just that,
well.
yeah.
Everyone has lights on,
Mhm.
and so like you're blinded by everyone's
Mhm.
lights, and then Anyway,
Yeah.
so
So I was talking about Nier.
I think you were wrapping up.
Yeah, I was just
Nier.
kind of wrapping up. I
Yeah.
can wrap. I really think it is the most. I don't want to say underrated because I feel like it's got reviews and ratings and praise that it deserves. But I feel like it is probably the most underplayed and probably underappreciated game to have come out this year to gaming as a whole.
Yeah.
It really is an experience, and I think it's one every gamer should participate in. Because I think I was talking about some of the negatives, but because the only negatives I can think of is if you want this big, vibrant, open world with lots of activity going on, this is not your game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's kind of a little lifeless, but that's part of the story.
Okay.
There are reasons and purpose to why it looks like that. And the another negative is if games that have like fan service and stuff like that bother you, then that might be
I have
a
noticed
turn
there's
off.
a little bit of
There's
some
a little
fan service
yeah,
going
there's
on there.
there's some fan service that is unnecessary, but it's whatever. It's
Yeah.
whatever.
All right.
But that's really all I really have to say negatively about it. Other than that, combat so smooth, story there, and it will mess with your head morally and just how the game is just set up. It's really a lot of fun.
That's cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard all of the games. To read them all off now, the ones that are on the ballot for Game of the Year of 2017 are Wolfenstein 2, Call of Duty World War II, Friday the 13th, Persona 5, Fate Extelia Extra Star. I feel like
Quinn game.
Yes. Fire Emblem Heroes, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Nier Automata. You can vote as well if you would like to, if there are enough people to sway the vote. I guess you can comment right here on the part video, and then obviously the full episode. You can do it all of episode 10 as it's being posted. Or, sorry, 11. This is episode 11. Episode 12 that comes out next month, we will be announcing the winner of the Primal Target Game of the Year, as well as the first ever induction ceremony
Into the PT Hall of Fame.
into the PT Hall of Fame. It's going to be good. More on that next month. But we're moving on.